Hello. Okay, guys, we are live. Perfect. So, hello everyone, I am Harshal Jain, and today we'll be building a task manager API using Node.js Express and MongoDB. So, you might be wondering that task manager is actually similar to the to-do application. No, it's not. It's a bit different, and task manager has a little bit more things like user management. Like we will be registering a user also, and we'll be managing the task accordingly. So it's going to be very exciting, and let's build that. So this is part one of the task manager API, but from the next video we'll be building the part two also. Okay, and I won't be implementing the front end for this because it's time taking, but if I get time I would implement React.js with it if we get time. Okay, since we only have two videos for it, so I can't guarantee that, but yeah, we'll be building the whole backend for it and some APIs, some important APIs which are required for registering a user as well as the task manager APIs. Okay, so I hope you have watched all the previous videos. By the way, I'm really sorry for the past 2-3 days I've been inactive and the stream didn't continue that. But from today we'll be continuing our streams. So I had some personal issues actually due to bad weathers and different kind of things. I wasn't able to create a live session. All right. So anyways, we can continue from today, and I think 2-3 videos are actually more pending. It's more project specific, not theory part is completed. So if you want some projects, more projects, you can definitely comment them in the live chat or any part. Okay, so let's continue, and before continuing in the okay, before continuing, first of all, you can visit this channel, and here you can see that in the playlist part, you would find the complete playlist here. Okay, so everything would be available here. You can go here and watch all the sessions required for Node.js, Express, and MongoDB. Even if you think that some part is missing, you can ask me again. I would bring a special session for you all. All right. So that's it. Now let's continue. And yes, one more thing. Actually, if you have any queries regarding MERN stack development, if you want to learn MERN stack development live or offline, you can actually visit the description, and there you'll find some links. Good evening, sir. Good evening, Amisha. How are you? So in the description you would find one link that is Node.js Live. So if I visit that, you would find React Node.js Live. That's a complete course which is live, and you can see that right now you can get 25% discount. So if you wanna buy this one, you can definitely go for it for full stack developers. Okay, so you can actually see that we would be starting from basics of Git and GitHub, then we would be starting with HTML, CSS, then JavaScript, then React.js basics to advanced, then we'll also be uploading Node.js later on. All right, so now let's continue. And one more thing, that if you don't like online classes, you can actually go for offline classes. And definitely there are some people who are not able to understand things online, and I respect that. So for offline, you can again visit the second link available in the description, and you would find the offline course. There will be same content, it's just that it would be offline. So you can see we actually have three spaces here, Gurgaon and Noida, so you can check out here. All right, so now let's continue, and we would be first of all building a fresh application, then we would be building some APIs. Hi Tarun, how are you? All right. Okay. So one more thing, that if you don't have much idea of Node.js, I would still recommend watch the previous videos. But if you think that you would be able to understand everything, then you can continue today. All right, so let's begin. So first of all, let's create a React.js application. I'm sorry. First of all, let's create a Node.js application, and then if we get time later on in the second part, if we get time, then we would be continuing with the React.js front end part. Okay, I'm not really sure if we get time, then we would be continuing with that. All right, so anyways, today our main focus is to build some of the APIs, and some of the APIs would be built in part 2. So let's begin. So here you can see Let's create a specific folder for that. And by the way, I have also provided the complete source codes available in my GitHub account. So if you want to visit my GitHub profile, you just have to type github.com/virajj014. Okay, so this is my GitHub profile. You just have to type this, right? Once you type this, you would find my repository section. And by the way, you can also follow me here. And in the repository section, you would find Node 15 Geeks for Geeks. So you can search this one if you don't find this, and then you can visit here, and the source codes of all the projects which we have created till now are actually available here. Okay, so you can check out these if you want. And I think the internet is quite slow today, but anyways, we would continue. So all the projects, all the previous videos projects are actually available here. All right, so now let's continue. And here what we will do is we'll simply create a new project, and I'll just name it as, okay, let's name it as to do, or what's I think, sorry, it's a task manager app. So task manager backend. Okay, or I would just say that task manager project. Okay, so inside this, let's create a folder named as task manager backend. That would be better, right? So task manager backend. Okay, backend. Right, so inside this, what we'll do is, first of all, let's initialize a Node.js application. So I hope you have installed React.js, I mean the VS Code and Node.js in your computer. Then we would be later on installing React.js in the next video, but at least two things are required: Node.js, and second thing is VS Code. Okay, so first of all, today we are going to write only the backend part. So if you are here for the backend part, then that's great. If you also want the front end, that would be covered in the next video. Okay, today we are only going to focus on the API part, backend part, right? So let's start a terminal here, and new terminal, and let's say that here, first of all, we have to initialize this application. So we would simply say that npm I n it init. Okay, initialize the application, and let's name it as task manager backend. Okay, hit enter, 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 enter. So everything would be fine, and now you can see that a package.json is actually available here. So first of all, let's create a file named as index.js. Index.js, that's it. Then we have to install some packages like express, MongoDB, and so on. Okay, so we'll be installing that too. All right, a lot of people are actually here. So to all those who are watching, uh this is part one, by the way. So if you haven't watched previous ones, please watch those first. All right. And also share this series to your friends. If you have any doubts, you can ask me in the live chat or in any of my videos. I'm always live in some of my videos in Geeks for Geeks development channel. So you can just message me in any of my videos. Okay. So here we would be defining Express.js. First of all, we have to install Express.js, then some MongoDB things, and then some routes and all. Okay, so let's say that here we have initialized. We would simply type here. I hope the font is visible. So here we just have to type npm I means install, and then express, express, and then mongoose. Okay, mongoose is actually someone who allows you to connect to MongoDB. You're not just to MongoDB. Mongoose is the guy which actually allows this. Okay, so now what we would do is we want okay, what we want one more thing, that is body parser. Body parser simply does one thing, that is whatever data are you sending from front end or postman, it would actually be in a string format. So first you have to convert it into JSON format, right, or any format which you want. So JSON format is for body parser is for JSON format. So we would be converting it to the parsed JSON format, and then we would be extracting data out of it. Okay, I hope you are getting these things because we have covered all these till now. And I think we must also use bcrypt. Bcrypt is actually used to hash the password which we are going to, whenever the user registers, we are going to hash this password, okay, whatever the password, so that we can make things more secure. All right, so yeah, we will say that body parser bcrypt, okay, bcrypt, and then one more thing, that is jwt, that is JSON web token. Okay, so these are all which we would need, I think, and if we need something else, we would actually install that, right? So let's say that first of all we would need express and mongoose and things like that. So let me just check what all do we need. Just a minute. All right. So I think we actually need a few things. That is, first of all, we would actually install, we have installed Express. We would need Express and body parser. Just import those. Then we can also actually use course, but right now we don't need course, but you must know how to use course. Course is someone which actually allows you to access any kind of backend from frontend. That means, suppose if I am allowing google.com to access my backend, course is the one which will actually set some policies. Okay, similarly I can allow 2 3 different front ends to access my backend. Okay, so this actually introduces some kind of barrier, security barrier. That means apart from these 2 3 front ends, no other front end URL can actually access my APIs. I hope you are getting these. Okay, so right now I would just say that npm course. Okay, so right now I'll just say that any front-end URL would be able to access course, so that if in future you're trying to add a front-end, you won't face any difficulties. Okay, so let's do that. So first of all, I would also define an instance of express class, right? So I've just defined an instance, so now I can use it as my personal API routes. Okay, so here I would simply say that first of all I want to use body parser. So here I would just say that app.use body parser. That means whenever there is a incoming data, I would just pass this data. Okay, so it's always running, it's always there. Okay, so you don't have to call it again and again. That's why I'm using app.use here. Okay, similarly we have 2 3 different things. First of all, let's create one more thing, that is env file. Okay, so we would need .env, right? So env file is something which contains all of your passwords, and you would be directly importing things from env files, or you can create a separate file and then do different kind of import tasks. Why is this env important? Because you never share this file to anyone. Okay, all your passwords are secure here, so if you are sharing this to your friends, you don't need to share the env file. Okay, that's why it's beneficial to use env always, and I'm never skipping that because I think this is the best thing you can always do to make things secure. And a lot of tutorials actually never tell you how to use env properly, and this makes confusion between different people, that when they are beginner they actually don't know the use of env files. So I don't want that to happen to my people. Okay, so let's use env properly, and env is very much secure. You are not going to share the env file to anyone, you're just going to share the different files except env. Okay, so that's very beneficial. And what I'm going to do is, here I would just say that okay, we have also imported course, we have also installed course, and we have to import course. So one more thing which we need is to use env files. Env files actually require one package, that is .env. So I would just type npm i.env. Okay, so till now we have actually installed all the packages. You can see in the dependencies, you would see all the packages which I have installed. Okay, the version might be different, but the task is almost the same. Okay, so you can see that everything is here. So I mean that if in future you are looking for different kind of version, that simply means that you have more updated version. Okay, each have different tasks. But if I talk about big rift, suppose if in future you are installing this, you would see some other version or something else. Okay, so be aware of that. And if app is not working at that time, you can actually see these version and you can install these versions on your own specific versions. Okay, because sometimes in future there are some major changes and things don't work properly, so you can use these specific versions, things would work then. All right, so here I would just say that we have installed everything. So we would actually need to use env also. So you would simply say that require require, and inside this you can say that we have to use .env config, right? So .env. Inside this, I would just say that now what would happen, whatever variable I am declaring here would be automatically imported after it's used it everywhere, right? So for example, I can declare my own ports and things like that. So first of all, I would just say that here my port would be, suppose, I would just say that const, and let's say that we have a port, port, right? Port. I would just say that let's declare a variable here. Let's name it as port, and let's say it's 8000. So the port can be anything different. Right now I'm just saying my port is 8000. So I would just say that if there is some specific port, then use that specific port, which is we are declaring from env. But some different platforms might have different ports. That means we are taking a variable port value. This can be anything. not only 8000, this can be anything. Okay, this can be 8001, anything. Okay, so be aware of that. The port can be anything. And let's see, right now I'm just saying that we have declared the port variable. Now we'll be declaring a few more different things. How to differentiate between GraphQL and MongoDB. Actually, both of these are really different from each other. And MongoDB is database. GraphQL is something which you use to serve a data. What I mean is, suppose, for example, I'm just giving a very smallest example of GraphQL. If I talk about MongoDB, MongoDB would be your database. It would contain all the data. GraphQL is something which you would be using later on with Node.js to serve your data. Okay, it's not like comparative to MongoDB, it's comparative to normal Node.js API actually. Okay, so GraphQL is something, for example, I'm talking about user data. Okay, I'm talking about user data. So if I want the whole user data, I would call the complete user data. But in Node.js, there isn't any method where you want to call some specific fields. Like I don't require password, I don't require email, I only require name, I only require gender. If I only want these two fields from the whole user object, it's not normally possible in Node.js. Okay, you have to define different routes for different kind of restrictions. So instead of that, you can use GraphQL. And why to use GraphQL? Because you can see that if we are calling 10 different fields, this is this much data, 10 fields data, and if you are calling only two fields which are actually required, okay, from 10 fields you would be using two fields as per the requirement. Similarly, from the two fields you are using the two fields, so actually the data got less, so it got faster. Okay, it got released faster, so it's actually making things faster, and it's very cost effective, because once you use GraphQL, you'd be sending and receiving less data. So actually the data bandwidth and things like that, different stuff, so the cost is overall less. That's why GraphQL is used for that stuff. It's not comparative to database, that is MongoDB is specifically for storing the complete data. GraphQL is used for serving data. You can compare GraphQL with Node.js or different kind of APIs. Don't compare it with MongoDB. Okay, so now let's continue. And all right, so we have actually created a port. Now what we would do is we would simply say that here we have create body parser, we have used body parser, right? Now what we have to do is let's say we are going to listen to some port. Okay, so app dot listen. Okay, app.listen, and whatever is the port value would come here, that is 8000, and you would simply say that if everything is working fine, server is running on port this. Okay, so we would get this console. And now what else do we need is we would simply say that app.get, and this is it. We would simply say whenever we are trying to check the API, we would simply return something that is welcome to the application or things like that. I would simply say res.json. By default, the response is okay, so I won't specify the status. I would simply say that message task manager API is working, right? So we would simply return this if we are checking the API. So let's try to check this if it's working. But before that, let's do one more thing. We would set up MongoDB also. So here I would just define a file named as db.js. So it would actually contain your MongoDB data, right? Alright, so for using MongoDB, we would simply define one thing, that is console, sorry, const mongoose. I don't know why I'm mispronouncing some words today. Sorry for that. Required.env. Now, why am I using .env? Because the MongoDB URL you are going to store here, and you're just going to import that variable. That's why I'm using .env here. So let's import the MongoDB URL. So I also have the URL which I have created before, but for you all guys, I would be creating a new URL. Okay, so for that, let's again visit our browser, and here you can say that let's import MongoDB Atlas. MongoDB Atlas. और बताओ यार, तुम लोग अपनी रियल लाइफ के बारे में बातचीत कर सकते हो। ओके, लाइक क्या चल रहा है कॉलेज में, क्या चल रहा है, या फिर कोई प्रॉब्लम में हो तो वो भी बता सकते हो लाइव चैट में। ऑलराइट, सो लेट्स कंटिन्यू। एंड It's taking a bit time. You can wait for a few minutes. Actually, sometimes MongoDB takes time to load, and you can see right now I'm not able to select on Google and GitHub. All right, so let's wait. Yeah, now it's here. Okay, so sometimes it takes a little bit of few more minutes. So let's say that I'm going to use this profile. Okay, you can log in with any of the profile in which your database is in, or you want to create a specific database in that. All right, so let's create a new specific database here. And here what I can do is, let me just create a fresh project first of all. So this is some project, and I've also built some project. Okay, I've also worked on GraphQL. You can see that this is also some project. Okay, so let's create a new project and let's name it something like GraphQL, okay, or anything else. Let's name it as Task Manager, okay, Task Manager Backend, or let it be just Task Manager API, okay, APIs or anything, yeah. Let's name it as Task Manager, because in future I might create a same project name, so that's why I'm avoiding same names. Anyways, so let's name it anything. I've named it Task Manager, and then you can see that right now we are the owner. If you want to add your friend as the eligible accessible people, right now you can see there are some people here. So here you can actually give access to different kind of people. So I'll just say that, yeah, let's create a project. Only one person is eligible, that is me. All right. So you can see that current IP address is not added. Don't show me again. If you see something like this, what you have to do is, for network stuff, you can simply go to the network access, and here you can see right now there is no IP address added. So I'd simply click on add IP address, and here you can see that we have different kind of things. What I can say here is that, let's say that add current IP address from anywhere. So I can simply say allow access from anywhere. Please use Hindi language. Actually, Tarun, I would love to use Hindi language, and I'm a preferred guy. Like, I actually prefer Hindi language. The problem is some people don't understand Hindi, and majority of people actually understand English. That's why I would prefer English for this complete series. And I've been taking all sessions in English. That's why. So sorry for that, but I can't help it. So anyways, you can see that we have actually added one IP which is accessible by all kinds of computers. Okay, so this 00 simply means that you can access this database from any kind of computer or laptop. You don't have any restrictions, right? So in database, again, you can visit the database. Now let's build a database. Building a database is pretty much easy. Here you can see that if you have money, if you're a rich guy, you can purchase this, else you can go with me. Okay, 512 MB is free, so I can use this, right? So create. And definitely, if you are working for a company, if you're building a project, production level project, then you would be using the purchase one, because it would be able to store different kind of large user data. Okay, so that's why. So I would just say that right now we simply say HJ123, right? And again, in the password, we would again say HJ123. So you can give any username or password. I'm just giving a simple username and password, and don't copy me. Okay, so create user. So here we have username and password. So let's continue. Okay, so I think we have done enough here. Now one more thing is, we have added the IP address and everything is fine. So I'll just finish and close. Okay, so what actually happens here is, we have just created a simple database. All right, so again, if I go to this database, here you can see we get an option here, how to deploy Node.js with database. Actually, your database would be, again, you would get a URL here. Okay, you would be getting a URL here, and you'd be using that URL in Node.js. Now, wherever you use Node.js, that IP address must be mentioned here. That means, suppose if I host this Node.js application, which I'm going to use later on, suppose if I host this on AWS, Amazon Web Services. Okay, so I mostly prefer for hosting in AWS, because it's one service and it gives all the benefits. Okay, so you would be hosting your Node.js, suppose, in AWS. So your AWS IP address, whatever IP address you get on your machine, you have to mention that here in the network access. Right now I've specified 00. This simply means that any URL, any IP address can access that. That means I don't have to add anything after this. This is fine. Okay, wherever I host my Node.js application, suppose if I host in AWS, I don't have to do anything with the database in MongoDB. Everything is fine. You don't have to change anything. You just have to host your Node.js application. So this is the easiest way. But if I talk about more secure way, you have to add your AWS IP address here instead, so it would be more secure. Right now anyone can access this. Okay, anywhere you are hosting your backend, anyone can access this database. Little bit less secure, but for beginners it's fine. All right, so now let's continue in the database, and here I would again go to connect, and connect part you can see that we have compass. So compass, and here you can see we have a URL here actually. So we actually have to use this URL. Just copy this. Okay, this is actually a complete link key, which is very important. You don't have to share this to anyone. Okay, so just close this, and you can simply say that here if I visit, and let's type a variable name. Okay, so I'll just say that the URL variable name is, suppose this is the variable which I am going to use, underscore URL equals, and inside this I'm just going to paste this. Okay, so now the password was what? Password was actually HA123, right? So I'll just write HA123. That's it. That's it, right? So this is actually the username and this is the password. We just kept it same for making things easier, right? So I think this is it, and we would actually need a few more things, that is JWT underscore secret, I think secret underscore key. Let's say it is again HJ123, right? And I think everything is fine. We would specify, actually we would specify one more thing, that is DB underscore name. Okay, equals, suppose let's name my database as my DB1. Okay, by default its database name is test, but I want to specify a specific database name, so that is actually my DB1. Okay, that is fine. Now what I would want is, I would simply say that suppose we have specified the port, so everything is fine. Now let's try to write things inside the db.js. So let's do that, and what I would do is simply here I would specify, first of all you have to specify the MongoDB variable. So I'll just say that MongoDB link is actually MongoDB underscore, what's the name here? It's actually Mongo URL. Okay, so I'm going to write Mongo URL equals, and again you have to write process.tnv. So whatever link is here would automatically be used here, so you don't have to see all the keys. Okay, if you are sharing this, nobody can actually see the keys unless you are sharing the env file. So this is way more secure for development purposes, right? So now I would try to connect. So I would just say that mongoose.connect, and here you have to just say that when you're trying to connect, you would simply say that if everything is fine, then case, and else you would say that catch case, right? So one more thing, let's specify the database name also. So db name is actually db name is actually, I would just specify the database name from here. So database name is actually my db1. Okay, so I'll just copy this and paste it here. Const db name process.env db name. Okay, so database name is now my db1. Okay, and Mongo URL is actually this URL, right? This URL. Okay, so I hope you got this, how you are actually using env. Now let's continue with the then and catch case. So if everything is fine, we would simply say then, and you would simply say that MongoDB connection successful and things like that. So I'll just paste things here. Okay, so right now you can see that this is then case and this is catch case. So if you don't know what are these terms, please revise JavaScript a bit, because these are important. Okay, so this would actually return a promise, resolve or reject. If resolve is there, then case, else the catch case. Okay, so resolve means successful, reject means failed. Okay, so for failed cases, catch case. Okay, so now MongoDB is there. Now you have to import MongoDB here. That means, sorry, the database here. So I would simply say that I have to import database. So I would simply say that here you have to specify require ./db, because since we are in the same folder. Okay, I think now we must start the application. So for that we would simply say that npm, if you haven't installed nodemon, you have to just type npm I nodemon -g. Okay, I'm writing flag g because it would install globally. Okay, so my nodemon is already installed. I have installed it globally, so I don't have to write it again and again. So you can simply write this. Okay, I'm sorry, It's actually nodemon. Okay, now the correct name is here. So you have to install nodemon, and then if once it's installed, you just have to type nodemon, nodemon, nodemon. Okay, so it would automatically start. Now you can see that the problem here is what? Permission denied. Okay. I think there must be some application running here. Okay, let's do one thing right now. I would just skip this port part and let me just say that instead of this, we would specify some port name directly here. Okay, so now let's try to write this. Okay, I think there was some variable name confusion, but anyways, you can see that now things are fine. Okay, so I think now it would work. So it's working. Okay, it's working. So I've specified 800 here. Okay, so now the application has started properly, and you can see we also got the message connected to database. That means we are connected to database also. You can see that this message is connected to database. That means now we can continue with our work, right? All right. Okay, so let's create a few more APIs first of all. So let's start with the user schema. Okay, we would be creating a user schema which would actually store a few fields, right? So we would simply say that let's create a model, and inside the model I would just write a user schema. Okay, so I would just create a folder named as models, models. Okay, so models. Inside this, let's say that we have a model named as user.js. Okay, and inside this you would simply say that let's create a schema. So I would be actually using mongoose. Okay, again mongoose is here. Then you would be specifying a schema here. So again the schema is here, and let's close this. So inside this I would be taking a few fields, like I would just take name, email and password for now, and if in future we require any fields, we would be storing those. Okay, so right now you can see name is required, password is required, email is required. These three fields are required, and email must be always unique, right? So these three fields are required. Now I would just say that export this user schema. So let me just export this, right? I'm just exporting this. So this is my user schema which I have created. Now this is actually the format which I'm going to store my data in the users collection. Okay, so collection is simply a kind of table which you say in SQL is a table. Collection is in MongoDB, right? So this is it. Now let's continue with routes. So for actually creating routes, I would simply create a few routes, like for registering users, then login users, then task creation route, then fetching the task route and the ID route, and I'm sorry, updating the task route and the deleting the route. Okay, so first of all, let's say, let me just define routers also. Okay, so here we can simply say that let's create a router, and I would just specify it like I would just specify it like folders named as routers. Okay, routes, it would be better, routes. Okay, so inside this I would just specify user routes and task routes. Okay, task routes are different, user routes are different. So let's say we are specifying user routes. So let's say here we are going to write user routes.js. Okay, similarly you are going to create another file named as task routes.js, right? So let's focus about user routes only for today. So here we would be actually importing a few things. That is, first of all, we would be using user routes. Okay, so user routes, so we would be importing express. Then we would be importing the model which we have created. So for importing the model, we would simply say that const user equals require, and I think models we have specified user as this name. Okay, so you can see that we have directly imported this file. Whatever file this file is exporting, automatically that thing would be actually imported here. Okay, so I hope you are getting this, and we have used this before. Again, we would just say that const router equals express.router. That means we are creating the instance of this class. Now I think we can simply say that we have created this. So for continuing, first of all you have to import this somewhere. So let's first of all export this router, module.exports router, and then here you can specify in the index.js you have to use that. Okay, so I would simply say that whenever you are going to use this routes, whenever we are going to specify here, we are going to use it from here. So for using the user routes, you have to actually first of all define your const. Let's say we are going to define your const user routes. Okay, we have actually imported it, and now I'm going to use it. So for using it, all the use are actually defined here, so I'll just simply say that app dot use user routes. Inside this I'm specifying this slash users, that is whatever API calls we are going to make here would be starting from slash users, and after that we are going to call APIs from here. So let's write a test API. So I'll just say that app dot get, I'm sorry, router dot get. Now inside this you can say that suppose someone is simply writing this, so you can actually say that res dot send hello from user routes, or instead of that I can simply say user routes are working. Fine, so let's test this first, and for that let me just go to my browser. Localhost 8000, so you can see task manager API is working. Suppose if I write slash users, so you can see user routes are working. Okay, so I think this is working fine, and now you can simply say, since it's working, I think instead of this I would simply say res.json or something, but right now it's fine. So res.send user routes are working, so you can see it's working. All right, Arth Darji, hi sir. Hi Arth, how are you? So here we have to actually specify four CRUD operations, that is create, read, update, delete. We are going to create a users, and I'll just say that register API. One is the register a user, second is actually login a user, and I think right now we would be only needing these two APIs, and then we would be jumping to the task routes. Okay, so again we would be creating the same for task routes, so I'll just copy this and paste it here. Right now we don't have any model for this, so I'll just remove this for now. And similarly task routes are working, task routes are working. Here also we are going to perform CRUD, create, read, update, delete tasks. Okay, so here we are going to write APIs for that, and let's try to again use this there. Okay, so we would simply go to index.js, and again here you have to just import the task routes. So I would simply say const task routes, and I've imported this. Now I'm going to use this. So now let's try to test the task routes. Actually, yeah, one more thing, we have to actually change one more thing. That is here in the task routes, you have to specify task route. Yeah, it's working. Okay, fine. Now let's try to test that. Slash tasks. Okay, so you can see task routes are also working. Okay, so I think now everything is fine. Now we can actually use this directly. All right, so let's work on the user routes first. Okay, so in the user routes we are going to register a user and log in a user. So for the register part, it's damn easy. Okay, for registering part we have actually covered that before, but our again continue with the register part only today. So let's say that here we are going to create router dot post register. Okay, so this is the register API, and similarly we would say that router dot post login. Okay, so these two, and in the register part, so you are actually going to take suppose three things. What are these things? That is name, email, password. Okay, from the body. Now you would simply do one more thing, that I think I have to secure the password also. Okay, guys, just a minute. All right. So here also in the register part, we have to use bcrypt. Okay, so I would just import bcrypt const bcrypt bcrypt. Okay, so bcrypt.js, and we also need to use one more thing, that is JWT token. Okay, so for using JWT token, again we have to import here. So const JWT equals, so whenever user logins, we have to return a token. Okay, so JSON web token, and I think we have installed it, right? Cannot find bcrypt.js. Okay, bcrypt.js is not installed. I think I have installed it. Let me just check. Okay, it's actually bcrypt, not bcrypt.js, right? Sorry. Fine. Now things are working, and you can see it's connected to database also. Okay, so now let's say that we are going to create a user. What about this password? Suppose this password is hj123. We are going to hash this, right? So for hashing a password, we are using bcrypt, right? So that's the purpose of bcrypt. So let's say that whenever registering, you are simply going to say that whenever registering, before saving the password in the user schema, just do one thing. Whenever you are saving the password, just do one thing, just convert the password into some secure format, that means some hashed format. So for that, I would simply say that user schema dot pre. Okay, pre simply means that just before saving. Okay, so here we have to specify save, that means just before saving. Okay, so before saving, I would simply say async function, and then this is actually a middleware. I'm creating a middleware, that means after saving, before saving, I'm calling a middleware which would actually change my password, convert my password into a hashed password. Okay, so we would simply say that const user equals this, and then if that specific user password field is modified, or if I talk about if that specific user is modified, and you can also specify further that the password field of that user is modified, then change the password into some hashable format. That means suppose from hj123, suppose in future the user changes the password to viraj 123, so again you have to hash the password. So this simply means that whenever there is a change in this specific user's object, this specific user's data in the password field, just hash this. That means suppose your password was hj123, hash simply means it would be converted into some random format which only the application would understand. No one can easily understand this, so it's no one can easily crack the password. Okay, that's why we are going to use it. Okay, so for that you can simply say that user, okay, I'm sorry, you can simply say that user dot password. So this is actually a great way to hash password, and in the previous videos I have been using different method for hashing password, but this is a very great method. Okay, so we simply say that await simply means just wait for a while till the password is converted, then this schema will be again saved to database. That's why we are going to use await here, async await. The purpose of await here is just wait for a while, don't continue until the password is converted into some hashed format. Okay, so that's why we are writing await here. So bcry bcrypt. Okay, we haven't imported bcrypt here, so let me just import bcrypt again. So here you have to import bcrypt, right? Now I would just say that bcry bcrypt, okay, dot hash, and you're just going to hash the password. Okay, hash simply means that it would be just following some procedures, and I'm just going to hash the password. So this is a very great method. And now once things are completed, I would just call next. Okay, so this would only be working, that means this would be called every time that schema changes. This would only be working whenever password field is changed. Okay, whenever there is a change in password field, it would be a hashed. it would be hashed again. Okay, and then I would call next. That means after this user schema would be saved. Okay, so before saving this would be called, after this user schema would be saved. Okay, have you got this? So now let's say that we are taking these three fields. Now we are going to actually save this to your user. Okay, to your user. So for register I can simply call a try catch block. So I would simply say that try. Inside this I'm taking again three fields. So I would simply say that const user equals await, and now you're just going to call user model which we have created. Inside this you can simply say that, I think instead of this you can directly specify new, okay, I'm sorry, you can directly specify new user. Inside this only these three fields are available, so I'm just going to create a new object in the database with these three fields. And now again if I just save this, you can see everything is fine. And now I again have to create a catch block. Okay, so if everything is fine, I'll just send a status, and I would simply say one more thing, that the user has been created. So I'll just send a message. Okay, so message user created successfully, right? So user created successfully if things are fine, else the catch case would be called, and here you can simply say whatever is the error, you would just send the error. Okay, so you can see things are like that and you can use it. Okay, so now let's continue, and let me just check if this register is working or not. But before registering, let me just continue the login part also. So for the login part, again I'm going to create a try catch block, and actually first of all I'm going to get those values. Guys, you can do one more thing. You can just cut this and add this to the try catch block, so that everything comes in one format, and whatever is the issue, if there is an issue in this line also, it will again come in the catch format. That's why. Okay, so that's better to use inside try catch. So if I just cut this, I'll just write try. Inside this you can specify these fields, email and password you would be taking while login, and here you can just say that const user equals. I'm going to find that user which exists, if it exists, if the user which exists, and then I would find the password. Okay, so first of all I would check that the user exists with this email or not. So it's simply that say that user dot find one. Okay, find one, and I would simply specify the email field, whatever is the email I would just find that. Then I would compare the password with the saved password. Okay, let me just show you. First of all I would just send this. So if the user doesn't exist, then I'm going to simply say that user not found or things like that. Okay, so throw user unable to log in, or user not found, user not found. Okay, so if this is the case, throw new error. So this would automatically, this line would automatically take you to the catch case, so you have to specify the catch case also. Okay, so whenever this line would be executed, throw new error, it is going to create a new error. Now whenever a error is created, it would call the catch case. Okay, I hope you got this. So now we are in the catch case. Inside this you have to just specify that this is the error. Okay, so you can see things are like that, and I think now we can say that whenever catch is called, this is the error, but if things are fine we would continue. So if the user is found with that specific email, now we have to compare the password. Okay, so for that, this is the simplest line, is match. Okay, so this match is a variable, and I would simply compare the password which user has provided with the hashed password which is saved in my database. Okay, so dot compare the password which user has provided, okay, and the password which is hashed, okay, which is available in my database. Okay, so now we are comparing the password. If they match, so I would simply do next thing, else I would simply say that again throw an error, password not, or password invalid password. Okay, things like that, invalid credentials, right? So this is the case, and I think you must copy this and paste it here, so it would be better, because nobody would be able to know whether this email exists or not. So this is making things more secure. Okay, so now you can see that this is it. Now let's try to say that if everything is fine, we would be generating a token. That means the user name is correct, email is correct, password is correct. So if both of these things are correct, I would simply create a token. So I would just say that let's import JWT, and I would just say that dot sign. Inside this you have to sign a token, you have to create a token. So here you can provide the ID of that user from bringing the ID from that specific object. Okay, so whenever user has been found, Okay, if everything is fine, user is correct, password is correct, so we'll actually have a user in this object, right? This is the user's object, so I'm actually taking the ID out of that, and then I'm creating a token out of that. Okay, so one more thing is required, that is, wait, I'm sorry. And after this, you have to just go out of these brackets, and here you have to specify the JWT secret. Okay, so JWT secret is the act actually it's a type of password which would make your token more secure. Okay, so this can be anything else. I've just specified this, so I think I have to copy this variable name, and in the user routes I've just pasted it. Okay, so now I think it would work. So we have created a token, right? So for testing the token, we can simply say res.send this. Okay, but one more thing, I think, okay, it would be fine. So you can simply say that we are sending the user and the token. I won't say that you must send the user, but let it be, we are sending the user also for this case. And let's say the message is logged in successfully. Now let's test this. Okay, so for testing it, we would be using Postman. So let's say Postman. So in the Postman, we have been working on Postman before, but right now let's create a user. For that, we can simply first of all type users. So you can simply say it's giving me an error. Why? Because this is a GET request. So let me just check. So yeah, users routes are working. So now inside this, I have to specify register. Okay, register. Now here you are sending data in JSON format. So you have to specify content type application JSON, right? In the headers part. And the body part, you have to just specify what? One thing is the name, and the second thing is actually the email, and the third thing is the password. Okay, so the third field is actually the password. So password is, again, I would just say that the password field is HJ123, and the name field is Harshal, and the email is virajj014 @ gmail.com, right? So let's try this, and I think everything is fine, but we have to create a post request. Let's click on send, and I hope it works. So we are getting an error. Okay, let's test this here. Okay, actually my database wasn't connected, so I'll just refresh, and then let's wait for the database to be connected. Now you can see database is connected, so we'll continue. Okay, so again, if I click on send, you can see that the user has been created successfully. That means register has worked. Okay, so here you can see that the password is actually saved in the hashed format. Okay, by the way, you can also visit MongoDB Atlas. Okay, here you would again go to the browse collections, and here you would find the new user create. You can see we created a database by just specifying the name MyDB1 in Node.js application, and inside this automatically the collection users has been created because we are using this schema, right? So inside this you can see that a user has been created with this hashed password. So this is way more secure, right? That's why we are using a hash password things. So definitely if you aren't able to see things, you can simply click on refresh. You would be able to see this. Okay, so everything is fine. So you can see that we are able to register. Now after register, we have to check the login part. So I'll just copy this, and actually let me just duplicate this tab. Okay, and let's say that now I'm going to log in. Okay, I hope it doesn't change here. Yeah, it's fine. So now I'm trying to log in. Again, post request in the headers part, content type application JSON. This time I don't actually need the name, but you can still specify name field. Okay, but I don't actually need the name. So suppose now you are trying to log in. So email and password. Let's suppose I'm specifying wrong password. If I click on send, you can see we are getting an error. Okay, what kind of error it is? Post method is this, and whatever error is here we are sending, right? Suppose if I specify right things, okay, so suppose if I specify right things. Okay, so you can see logged in successfully. I think I might have mistaken with the throw new password thing. Anyways, I think I might have mistaken with the throw new password thing. Anyways, we will see that later on. But right now you can see we have fixed the login part and the register part. So you can see now we are able to log in and register. And apart from that, you can see that here we are getting a token. So this token is very important for the user to access the whole application. Okay, so you can actually add some expiry time and things like that later on. Right now you can see we are able to register and log in. So this was it for the first video, and from the next video we would be working on the task part. Okay, so in the task part we would be actually performing the task management for each specific user. Okay, so this is mostly used in spaces like if you are working on a startup, and you would actually see that in startups you can see that there is a task management system. Okay, so for those cases you would be using this application. Kavya Yadav, how sir, how much JavaScript is actually enough for going to React? For going to React, I would say that it's okay if you are somewhat an intermediate in JavaScript, but I would say that React.js is totally based on JavaScript. So even if you go to the advanced level, then that would be also beneficial in React.js. Okay, because at the end you have to learn complete JavaScript. So even if you are learning React.js, you again have to learn all the concepts of JavaScript. So you can just say that at least you have to go till intermediate, but I would say learn complete JavaScript, because afterwards you have to learn JavaScript. Okay, so at least till intermediate, but after that you can start learning React.js and so on. All right. So what I did was, I'll tell you my experience. I actually learned till intermediate because I was the guy who is hurried for everything. I just want to learn everything. I wanted to become a full-stack developer so fast that I missed some of the basic concepts initially. So that's why I'm recommending you to learn JavaScript, complete JavaScript first, but till intermediate, then you can go for React.js. With React.js, you can learn remaining concepts of JavaScript. That would also be better. Okay, that's what I did. I started learning remaining concepts of JavaScript when I started learning React.js, because in React.js you are going to use JavaScript a lot. In Node.js you are going to use JavaScript a lot. So eventually you are learning JavaScript and using these things. All right. Okay guys, so I think that's it for this session. If you have any doubts in these parts, how we are hashing things, how we are getting the token, then you can ask me. I try to make this video as simple as possible. In the next part, we'll be working on the task part, and that would be a fast video, okay? So I made it it's easy today. Right now things were very easy for today. But in the next video, the task management part would be a little bit next level. All right, so sir, could you suggest sources to learn React.js? Okay, one of the sources, GeeksforGeeks, and apart from that, when I started learning, I actually followed some of the documents, because the React.js, you can actually visit the official React.js website. There you'll find the official documentation. That's the most precise thing, and everyone actually refers this. Even if I am teaching something, I'm referring the documentation only. Okay, so if you want the correct source, the best source, if you are able to understand documentation, you can refer that. Else you can watch YouTube tutorials from Geeks4Geeks, or you can purchase courses. Okay, there is no specific thing. Uh, whomsoever you feel that this guy is teaching enough well, you can go there. Okay, and you can learn from me also. All right, so before ending this, I would just upload this source code on GitHub, and for that, let me just close this, and I would just share the complete source code then. So here I would just open it with VS Code, and let me just push the whole source code to GitHub. Okay, so git add dot git commit dash m, and I would just say that the date is here, suppose 3/8/23, right? So let's push this, git push. So guys, now I have uploaded the complete source code. So what you actually have to do is you can simply visit github.com. Okay, you just have to write github.com. You would visit GitHub and you have to create an account. Then after that, you can simply search for slash virajj014. Okay, so this is my profile name. You can search me here, and in the repository section, by the way, you can follow me here also. In the repository section, you would find node 15 Geeks4Geeks. Okay, so all the source code which we have done till now in the 15 days and today's also, you can see it's available. You can see that this project which we created today is actually available here. You can follow this. All right, you can follow this. All right, so before ending this video, if you have any doubts, you can ask me in the live chat. or you can also contact me on Instagram. I would just share my Instagram username. I forgot shit exactly. All right. So if you have any other doubts, you can always ask me here. I'm always available for replying to your doubts. All right. So that's it for today, guys. I will see you in the next one with the task part of the remaining Node.js APIs. So I hope you understood this video. We will be continuing in the next one. Okay. So that's it for today. I will see you in the next one. Till then, see you have a good day. Bye bye.